real quick. It's always been the way of walking. That's it. Walking and talking. Maybe cutting this one really short. We did 2 hours this morning. Starting to heat up in here a little bit. And so today we've had a small portion of beef liver, less than 1/8 of a pound, probably a 1/16 of a pound. I just had 2 hamburger patties, and I've already gone through like 6 of these things. I got this Diet Dr. Thunder for a pretty good price from Walmart. It's pretty close to, it has a cola Dr. Pepper flavor to it, Diet Dr. Pepper. But I get it for the phenylalanine. I talk about that. And it really does help quite a bit. So we are leaning up. There's always, like in ketosis, there's always a shortness of breath. But I'm going to be doing this little walk here. And I got to warn you, the sound quality is going to go down. I don't know what happened with, I don't know if I did something to it or if I'm using it wrong, but the sound bite that I was using, it's not working the same anymore. Don't know what happened. So it's just my earphones. The earphones kind of pick up on it to where if I talk, if I project a little bit more, you can hear me from over here. But I turned off my earphones, I thought. I'm not sure how, if I've been tripping and thinking that YouTube live streams actually were cross-combative against using the sound bites. I don't know. But I'll probably go back to just shooting videos again, which is what I typically did, to where I can get the good sound quality. I noticed on my live streams with my workouts, the sound is heavily dampened as well. I don't know what the heck's going on with that. I think there's some sort of mode button that I pushed or didn't push. But we're going into a 3rd hour here of walking. The body's morphologically going through these various stages. I'm rapidly pushing it. Something that I did last time that I'm only sort of touching on today is that I backed off resistance training. That's primarily doing walking. Last year to get so lean. This time I'm putting a primary focus on building muscle, being lean, being hard, having more vascularity. And in the end, I'm hoping that's going to equate to 6 to 12 pounds of lean muscle mass, where instead of being 155 pounds, 153 to 57, I'll be able to be 10 pounds more, and around 167 to 173 be in that bracket. And I think honestly, if I were to really look at myself, where I purged everything out of my system, I'm in the high 170s now. I've effectively lost going on 30 pounds just recently. Got back up to 205. Wasn't planning on doing any sort of yo-yo, as I've talked about here. I jumped to a place where, like a lot of people, I didn't feel good about eating meat, especially when you're always eating this bloody meat every single day, day in and day out, carnivore. I'd rather eat vegetables. I'd rather eat algae oil. I'd rather eat nori. I'd rather eat things that aren't mammals, and just get away from eggs and even whey protein. I'm over it. But every time I've gone in and posited it, pea protein just isn't the same. Then they hike up the price. Once there's interest, and it just becomes ridiculous. Everybody's so greedy and reactive and desperate now. I'm going back into what I know, and the only thing I can do, and I'm telling you not to feel guilt. Another day to survive in this system that you didn't create. I can't afford anything but to do beef liver instead of spending 10 times the amount on less nutritious food. 10 times. It cost me $2.50 for more than the amount of beef liver that I can eat in a week is $2.50. So there's no reason for me not to do that. I'm hoping that, let's see, these earphones are at least on. So that's off. That's as good as the sound gets for right now. So I'm not as worried about doing, say, I worked my biceps, so I need to work. Like the old school, I need to rest at least 24 hours. And it worked. But when you begin to look at it, why don't you back off that workout a little bit? Get the meat of the workout, recover faster, and go right back in and do it again. When I began to have that mindset, I found myself going in and recovering extremely fast and going in later that day like I did yesterday and being able to work your biceps all over again. Those compounding effects where you get 3 bicep workouts between, doing back work, pull-ups. My biceps are a little strained today, actually. Rows, all the different exercises that one can do. Your biceps off heavy bent over rows, if you've ever done them, once you're starting to hit 225, you're going to watch your arms grow like they never did before. It's just that simple. That's when naturally I had really close to an 18-inch arm, big ass chest, and I was just doing heavy bench, heavy squats, heavy bent over rows, and militaries. Those 4 exercises. And when I skipped the militaries, everything went up and did even better. So I would do militaries less often. Military presses can really mess people up. But I find that is also a really refreshing aspect to the suspension trainer, where you can, I hope my bicep is going to recover. I really stressed one of the fascicle areas there. I'm doing all this exercise, and sometimes that's your body tells you got to rest. So I've been doing more hanging exercises. The biceps sore there on the right, not the left side. I can feel the soreness. So we're going into 3rd hour. Possibly in a few minutes, my son will come walking through that door and we'll shut it off and we'll say, okay, we got in a few hours of straight up walking. I got in my 2 hours, so I know I got in about 5 miles. And then I ate 2 Angus beef patties cooked in olive oil. Threw some omega-3 rich oil, mayonnaise on top of that. It's also made with EVOO. Stuff tastes better, and some mustard, because there's medicinal effects with mustard. Mustard's amazing, as with garlic. So I always use a little bit of garlic powder, not garlic salt, garlic powder. And then sodium is extremely important when you're eating like this. You're gonna hold a little bit of water outside subcutaneously. In fact, you could hold so much water that your skin kind of looks like it's just dripping off you and you get really lean. There's certain provisional sacrifices that you have to make when you say I'm going to do, I'm going to do carnivore. I've backed off the protein powder, as I was mentioning prior to. Not doing that at all. Not doing the protein pudding, but the protein powder pudding, as I call it. It really gets you in the focus where you're able to eat big, feel satiated, even throw some swerve on there or some of these other syrup like erythritol, monk fruit, type of products, and mess around with that and be like, wow, am I on? And then also making ice cream. Ice cream's extremely easy to make. With a whisker, you can just fluff up some heavy cream, and then you can top it with those, what do they call those things? But they're like basically fried pork skins. I think I've heard it called like chicharrones or something, but that's when they're flavored. Really good with lime, really good with Tabasco, but you can also crush them up, put them in with some brown sugar swerve, and top ice cream as well as the protein powder pudding. I make it with more water, the pudding, and it literally, it tastes like you're eating some sort of porridge. You throw heavy cream in there, a bunch of butter. I'll probably be pressed to eating like that when I get really lean, and when I get more vascular and I'm better trained. So I'm really condensing all my training back in to where my body's shocked, but then it's not so shocked and deficient that it just, I hit a wall and I'm not able to do anything. No, what's happening is that I'm taking in so many nutrients from beef liver, sardines, and eggs as a base, and then on top of that, covering everything with minerals, boron, liquid magnesium that's in the 40,000 volt liquid mineral supplement here by Trace Minerals. Actually, I think that's just a part of their brand. Trace Minerals, let's see. TM Sport. That's what it's called, TM Sport. I don't know if they're affiliated with Mineral Research Group, or if they got bought out, but that bottle looks strikingly the same, the blue and the white. I got a little something going on with this bicep. I think it was when I was, and there's something going on with this wrist where I was forcing out rows yesterday. I got to a place where I'm like, I think that's what did it, is just like this pull, So hopefully we're gonna go through a good recovery there. And oddly, it was this bicep that I felt a weird pull on the other day. Like the Golgi tendon organ, something was just going on with that, it's funky. So the body's just globally, systemically working congruently. And whether or not you want to go into a stretch, you're going to. I'm going to actually do a couple stretches right here. Yeah, that was nice because there's a little compression that takes place. A little compression takes place from everything we do, all the walking, all the moving. So I'm hoping to come out with a really superior, lean, ultra lean, natural physique that I've kind of equaled out the stretch to both biceps. I've been doing so much with the biceps that they need a little growth break. I'm taking more trimethylglycine in today. I think I'm up around 10,000 milligrams already. I might even do a little bit more later. For repair, I think I'm going to hit the rest of my supplements right now. Vitamin C. Yes, we're taking just 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C, creatine, magnesium, long jack. Citrulline and arginine, nitric oxide booster. I think that's going to aid in my recovery quite a bit. I think my body's like, where's the vitamin C? We're ready to repair. What's going on? Everything else is there. So we'll be sure to get in some sardines today. I got to get some calcium in, building those bones up. This is, there's a huge difference between the calcium that you take in certain products, most products, and the bioavailable calcium that you find in sardines. Yeah, my body's saying take a break from resistance training today. I'm starting to get like these synergistic dominance issues where I'm obviously inappropriately not using the right muscle, synergistic muscle movement patterns, and heavily relying on an asymmetrical shift. I don't know why that bicep's bothering me so much, but it doesn't feel like a really bad tear yet. So sometimes that warrants taking a couple days. I'd rather, take a couple days off than realize that I've just completely fucked up an attachment there, because that's a really tricky temperamental attachment with the pecti junction area. You can really get into a lot of trouble. And I haven't been doing side laterals, and I should be, but I did do like 6 solid sets of 6 reps to break out the inverted shoulder presses. A little too embarrassed. I started to film that and I'm going, wow, I'm falling over. Things are not pretty, but that is something I will be showing very soon. And that's when you really know your training and your balance is coming together quite well. It works antithetical, it balances out your pull-ups, right? You're doing exactly the opposite, where you're pushing up, right? So that's kind of the agonist, antagonist type of thought that you want to go through. If you want to increase your bench, well, increase your bent over rows so you have a platform to hold the weight on. So even if you can't do it, your body's able to stabilize it. Now you'll see people who have enough chest and triceps and front delts to where they can push that weight up, but they just can't stabilize it. And you see that in the way they do it. So stabilizing is huge. So I mean, just doing rack presses, that's interesting, but also holding. If you're just trying to get your bench back up, you rack press 185 pounds. Make sure somebody's watching you. If you're not used to really doing bench at all, rack press it, bring it over you, kind of play with it until you feel your core engaged, and just sort of learn how to stabilize it and work on that for a little while. You know, then go back to your stabilization chest exercises like suspension training. You know, and work your way down to going down to that deeper, you know, parallel position. So pretty soon I'll be elevating my feet for the presses. I'll be elevating my feet for the rows. That's to come. That'll be a jump because that's like adding up in another 20 to 40 pounds. The core, the beauty of the suspension trainer is the core is involved all the time. It's always there, it's always involved. Yeah, my biceps actually hurting, so that's worrying me. I don't know how long that's been going on, but it's like this fascicle right in there. And then kind of on the inside right there. So when you're working out all the time, you're always massaging yourself, you're always stretching, you're always trying to prepare to go into the next day, the next day, the next day. Proof is in the pudding, as they say. So we still got a decent amount of just fat in the same shape. And unfortunately, even when I was extremely lean last year, I still had fat around my chest. So what I'm hoping to do this time around is to really build the whole area up where there's so much blood flow and musculature going on there that I'm able to dramatically and dynamically shift that. That's why I'm just sticking in with ketosis right now, you know. Because it's worked for me in the past. I can bridge and go into gluconeogenesis at any point I want to from there. In fact, I mean, you're always, I've said this over and over again, but you're like always on the brink of going into gluconeogenesis. And you are in gluconeogenesis as it's driven. When you eat just a large protein meal, you're back in G&G, right? And your ketone bodies can still be there, ready to go. You want to exercise it by taking in a little more fat. Keep those ketone bodies up. So you're always kind of flitting back and forth between the two. It's been 27 days or a month now, solidly, that I haven't had any carbohydrates. I've slipped entirely out of glycolysis. And that's not entirely true because you can go in and start producing ketone bodies when you still have muscle glycogen. Right, this is a really interesting area. So this is why I was doing so much walking, so much training, and I have been for the whole month. This whole month has been solid with TRX and then working in more bodyweight exercises to where now I'm fully back into doing pull-ups and bar dips and leg raises full on. Just this week I started to really introduce leg raises again. And for me, leg raises work really well in the lower abs. But it's because I have a posterior pelvic tilt. So like a lot of people that you'll see up on YouTube who have an anterior pelvic tilt, you know, they're like sway back. I have a flat back. But that flat back forces me to, when I do a leg raise, I'm working my abs through the whole process. It's basically like someone with an anterior pelvic tilt trying to create this posterior pelvic tilt and then raise their legs, right? So they build up the psoas muscle and a lot of the hip flexor muscles, even if they get super lean, like the sartorius, you know, you'll see a lot of those muscles start to pop out and create a lot of HD definition. And then when a lot of those people just do a little bit of I'm not gonna say PEDs, but they do a little bit more manipulation with their hormones, right? Not necessarily anything illegal or scheduled. They can really thicken those areas up a lot and reduce their body fat. Like people do like Arimidex and Olvidex without doing PEDs. A lot of ancillary, they'll do it along with clenbuterol and maybe even ephedra or ephedrine. It's when people go full on into the M word, the drug that starts with the M. That's when they get into serious areas because they're training, they're talking, they're moving, they think they're superhuman, and it is a vanity drug. It's a vanity drug. It's an intellectual vanity drug where people think they're intellectually on a whole nother level. It's true, and it's a vanity drug as far as getting lean. Because you have these people who feel fat and gross and over, and then all of a sudden they're introduced to this stuff where they take it by accident or however they come across it, and they become junkies, right? And they don't even do it that often. Some of them do. But it's a state of mind. It's a metabolic state of mind. And that sucks that it's like, it's sore to the core, to the touch. I might need to take like a hot shower. So the magnesium helps a lot with that, to just relax the muscle that's really tight. So we've been doing more squats than I've done in a very long time. Because last year I was just doing jump squats. And then when I got in the gym, I was enjoying doing leg extensions, but I never got hugely into the TRX squats. I was doing those in the gym too. But I'll tell you, the TRX, the suspension trainer, the single leg, the derivations of single leg squats, squats with rotations, the dual leg squats, those are great. I mean, I could do those today. I may just go in and do 5 sets of squats. Because you really want to get your lower body to the point where you're switching from more aerobic, like low level aerobic exercise. So this is just creating all day oxidative stress. It's just constant, right? It's very low level, keeping that heart rate humming. Like I would prefer to know that my heart rate is somewhere around 108 to 115 and maybe even lower. I'm still in that zone 1, as they say, Still humming in zone 1. Whew. Going in for the 3rd hour. And 3 hours of walking, that's a good base. Once it gets up to 5 or 6 hours, you're taking some chunks out of that body fat, and you're hitting that oxidative stress, and you're making an impact, but a lot of times the ramifications initially, they're not what you'd expect. You're not going to look drier, you're not going to look leaner. It comes off really weird. And then one of those days, if you continue on with it, several weeks down the road, sometimes weeks go by, I think very little has changed, and all of a sudden the scale drops, the weird water you're holding drops, The areas where you thought you were just still holding fat just drop, and you're like there, you know. And that's when you're able to really tweak and start to play with it, you know, when you can see the definition. But even when you can see the definition in video, particularly under certain lighting where it's like undeniable, you'll look down and you'll still see that hanging, obfuscating fat. You can't necessarily pick up when you're looking at the macro view of the entire physique. We're not going off of this. I am taking this to the absolute extreme. I'm willing to die for this, but with that, I'm not doing crazy ass shit to get there or cheating. This is all using the best nutrition, the best devices, and ramping up to where I'm just doing unstoppable training sessions. Momentum. I'm building up extreme momentum. And even though I'm trying to get as much done and create an impactful empirical result, I have in mind just that right there where I kind of like got my foot stuck. I didn't feel unstable or lacking in skill or uncoordinated. Okay? Whereas very recently I did feel that way. Yeah, the hips get really tight. Yeah, there it goes. Yeah, there's just like this alignment with my hips. So I'm hoping that I will get in a whole nother hour. Where are we at so far? 32 minutes, okay. Yeah, if I can keep going for another 25 minutes for the day, I'm good. It's more than I thought I would get. So typically I would be taking today off. Like I've been training so much, walking so much, that this would feel like it's just way over, like superfluous, over redundant, repetitive stress. This bicep's telling me that it is. And I'm pissed off at that bicep. But it's from not allowing enough recovery. That's the truth. It's a smaller muscle that has to endure a lot of stress. And when I sleep so hard that I probably sleep right on that mofo and just cut off the blood flow to it. Sleeping in weird positions. But I felt like when I was hanging the other day that I was breaking up this strange, pocketed, meshy fat that's over here. I don't have that type of weird marbleized fat anywhere in my body. It's like right there. It's so disgusting. And you could be like, well, look at your old self. That's disgusting. It's kind of like if you don't take your shirt off and you're just wearing, like most people, you're walking around, I'm well muscled, strong. Like it doesn't take me long to do several reps with 225. You know, of course I'm starting out with 205 and then, but really 185 pounds of 205. Yeah, I can always throw that shit up. It used to be that I could just throw up 225 anytime. And that's not really a mark of anything, because you'll see people who can press 500 pounds and they don't even really have much muscle on them. It's just at a certain angle, it's the way they're put together, but it also has to do with your body weight. You see these fat fucks, these fat fuckers are able to sometimes do heavy squats, sometimes do heavy bench. You want to equal that out. I love heavy squats. They're fun. That's something I'm trying to earn, is I want to be able to afford to go into a gym. I had all the equipment last year. I was going to do a lot of gym stuff, but I was poverty stricken, you know? I didn't own anything. I didn't, you know, it was kind of like the only way that I'll be able to do that is when I'm casually taking my Insta360 or whatever in to the gym and recording my sessions and you know, really just being able to capture it on a day-to-day basis, or maybe getting gym equipment here or wherever I am, you know. I need subsidizing. Don't even have a base. Don't even have a base way to support myself at this point. So rather than training people, I'm trying to really show the show and show how to do it and show how I did it and show the low key efficacious way to go through this. This is the back door to fitness. You know, most people can do this. Most people can do this all day. And you know, to be honest with you, a target audience, I'm really thinking about a 75 to 85-year-old lady who is scared. She's literally having a hard time sitting down and taking it down. Her muscles and her pelvic girdle muscles are failing her. Her mind's starting to fail her. And I know what she needs. I know that she needs to walk. She needs to start doing some body weight squats. And she needs to take some risks and chances. But when you look at osteopenia early on, when you look at a lot of the issues that arise from, you know, dieting and starving yourself, you know, people who lived through the 50s and 60s and had a completely different stigma placed on them. Those are the types of people that I really want to see benefit until they're actually going in the gym and going, wow, I've never worked out before. And I can afford beef liver. I can afford the sardines. Stop staying in this paracosum, in this hard file version of yourself. If you have a base amount of money, you have a place to live. Imagine yourself being in your early 20s and being able to have those types of resources. Really imagine yourself that way. And I know it's hard, dear. You know, I hated my grandmother. I hate my mother. I don't like any of my sisters. But there's a lot of women that I do like and I do respect, where I could see that's the type of grandma that I want. I did have a lot. I only saw her a few times in my life, but I had a really nice grandma. My father was a prick. He abused his own mother. He's a narcissist. Complete and total piece of shit. Sociopathic, narcissistic, skinny little fuck. Can't stand him. And he's still alive and he's almost 80. Drug addict, liar, poser, skillless drifter, bald, ugly, weird kind of bald, like trying to patch it over and do comb over type shit. You know? I have zero respect for him. And then people who really tried to get to me and that were jealous of me would always bring him up, you know. I don't care. That's ancient history. But my whole point is that I can see elderly men who are really sweet, nice people who are also looking around wide-eyed and going, I'm intelligent. I've been astute in life, and life is running me over. I'm rapidly aging, and I'm being essentially thrown out of the business when I'm the patron that put the fucking thing here in the first place. I hear you. I see you. You know, so I like the new senior citizens, you know, that just 20, 30 years ago were the people in their early 40s and 50s and like, what the fuck happened, you know? So people around that age bracket, people in my generation, the X generation at the top, and then people that are more baby boomers. you know. I'd like to see them, the nice ones. I'd like to see them win. I would. And there's pricks in every generation, and they always blame the next generation and the next generation. When I was doing rideshare, I had this talk. This kid was very assaultive. He's like, "You're the generation who fucked this up." And I go, "My generation is the X generation. I might look older because I'm run down, right? But we are the first latchkey kids who got fucked over, and most of us don't have jack shit to show for it. Don't clump me up with the baby boomer, the selfish baby boomers, because then." By just saying baby boomers as a general moniker, you're disservicing people who are really good, honest people that believed that things could, you know, from a benevolent, altruistic sense, improve. And they were lied to. And now they're living off very meager means and just wondering, what the fuck am I going to do the rest? You know, how much longer do I have? Like a lot of them, they feel like and know that they're living on borrowed time. Well, I'm telling you, I think that you could stretch it out and get 5, 12, 15 extra years if you started to do what I'm saying. But you're going to have to be very careful, especially if you've got hip issues, right? Your body wants to build up and produce. Your lower leg muscles are your metabolism. With the suspension trainer and just getting it to do squats, if that's all you got, master doing those. Try to do them every day. Try to do 3 sets a day. Yeah, every day. Include it in a little walk. You'll be amazed at what it does for you. And you'll be amazed how your recovery is, even if you've never really exercised in your life, in your 70s, even 80s. There's been studies done on people in their 90s where they're doing relatively heavy leg presses for low repetitions. You don't have to max out. You just have to handle the weight. Don't push yourself too hard. But you're going to have to push yourself on some level where you do a little more reps. I'd say the older you get, the more the weight or the resistant force becomes a factor, where add on a little more weight than you normally would. Have a spotter keep an eye on you. Do a leg press on a sled. Don't believe the lies. Yeah, so we're probably going to wrap this up in 10, 15 minutes. Feeling great. Yeah, once I get 3 hours of walking in, I'm gold. We did it. This is what 3 hours of walking looks like, and I've done 8 or more indoors. I've done 8 or 9 hours indoors. I think one time I even went up until like 10 hours. I walked over a marathon's worth. I just started walking. I realized, wow, I have all this fat available to me. And as my ketone bodies are up, I'm burning the fat, the subcutaneous fat, the organ fat, and at the same time burning the fat that's available as fuel. And just keeping this constant oxidative stress. Now, that first year that I did this, back in 2023 to 2024, mid-2023, late mid-2023 till early mid-2024, I was even going in and, I did a little short videos on this, but walking backwards, walking sideways, running, walking fast. It's not necessary. Just moving is, you sink into a certain flow or pace, like I'm just casually walking, not overthinking anything. And the beauty is that I'm recovering from all, so it's compounding, I'm recovering from all the suspension training I've been doing. Body's still sore in areas, right? So this is just a compounding effect of more exercise, more systemic blood flow, more oxidative stress, more rapid delivery of protein. And I feel this high, but building up, but I feel this high from the vitamin C and the nutrients that I just took in, the nitric oxide producing petroleum and arginine. Very nice, very nice. Helps with blood flow. Great product. I noticed it when the TMG is out and when the nitric oxide boosters are out. I noticed that. The nitric oxide boosters, they cause a little high BP, but in a good way. You want to get used to being able to go through a certain flux of your blood pressure. Just remember walking around or driving around San Mateo a few years back, doing rideshare, realizing how many different dimensional splits, possibilities, and potentials there have been derivations of reality. And I was fully committed to doing this type of focused work for even when I was out on the street or in between places. I focused on this. I was doing it. So they want to create collateral damage, friendly fire. All these terms are bullshit. So when you have the opportunity, see that you have the opportunity, seize it, do it, move, change some things, dramatically, dynamically change some things. So I'm getting the effects of very intense, high quality, full body gym training. Better than, and I'm deep in already. I'm deep in it. Really soon, the waist is gonna pull in, back's gonna get wider, chest is gonna get thicker and deeper and more vascular. The biceps, the arms are going to show size and definition. Shoulders are just going to thirst and want to get worked out, And I'm not quite there yet, but I'm accelerating the stage that I'm going toward. I'm accelerating that exorbitantly. And you can do that, especially if you have a history. Like instead of working out 2 or 3 times a week, what happens when you bump it up to 6, 7 times a week? What happens when you're doing double sessions like I was this week and still going, and you're working out multiple times a day? What happens then? Go back 12 more minutes, at least 10 or 48 minutes. And this isn't uncomfortable. You can see it's casual. It seems like I'm doing just about nothing, right? But I am moving. I have a low level sweat. I can feel my whole body. If I was in the gym, I would be on a treadmill walking 2.4 to 3.2 miles per hour. Probably more like 2.8 on average. It's the truth. And a lot of people would be like, that's nothing. It's like, have you done it? So what most people do when they're walking is they bounce and cheat, right? And get this, they think they're getting a flow in, but they couldn't do that for more than an hour. And it's like, now can you slow the fuck down and sustain that for at least 3 hours, maintain that speed? Oh, I couldn't do that. Well, that's how you're gonna burn the fat, Patty. That's how you do it. You don't walk for 1 hour, you don't walk for, you're not walking to feel good. You're walking to make changes. You know, you're not trained to feel good. You're not eating to feel good. The good feelings come later when you can actually start to assess things and think at the same time and not feel so depleted that you're all sucked up and you can't even think it at that point. Yeah, it's the truth. Most of us, we just think about the goal, we get to the goal, and then we are exhausted and deficient by the time we get to the goal. The whole point is to get to that goal and have even more compounding energy. And to be able to reassess things and go, wow, I'd like to change up where I'm getting these nutrients from, you know? Or I'd like to, go in and eat more of a Mediterranean style diet, Getting in those olives, sun-dried tomatoes. I mean, it's good food. Olive oil with beans, right? Quinoa and brown rice with oil. You can do that also, as long as you got the fiber in there. Gorgonzola, feta, all sorts of cheeses, mozzarella. That's the way to eat. And then if you're trying to lose weight, you go lighter on all that stuff. Put it on a little bit of cottage cheese with a lot of roughage. Maybe put a can of corn, organic corn on there. Some salsa instead, Go any which way you want. You'd be amazed at how you don't have to sacrifice in flavor if you really stop to think about how you're going to construct your meals and your meal planning. All right, I'll be curious to see if the sound was even a little better here. I just ditched the sound bites. I'm like, it's not working. I don't know what the F happened, but I did test it. And it does seem to work. I hope it's not broken. I don't really know enough about it. Yeah, maybe I need to take a piece in and out or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not gonna get stressed about it. Let my son know I just couldn't get him to work and see what he thinks. That'd be 200 and something bucks out the window, right? Gotta buy myself another month at least beyond, like this next 2 weeks. I need to buy myself another extra month, so like 6 weeks, to be able to really get to the first stage of this. I think, I've been thinking about it and going over it, and knowing my body, knowing how I've achieved things in the past, knowing where I'm at as I've gotten a little older, knowing where my conditioning is. All those factors come in and you're constantly recalibrating, right? But I'm realizing that it's going to take a good 6 more weeks to where my body's going to respond appropriately, where I'm actually aesthetically showing these signs. Because you can get in great shape really quick. You can start doing some reps and moving some weight, body weight, articulating through exercises, feel great, and still have a good layer of fat on you, no matter how you're eating. And it's like a lie for people who are doing the sugar diet or whatever new fad bullshit's coming out. They're all derivations. I showed this. The carbohydrate-centric diets are like the it was an Okinawan diet, Ornish diet, Portuguese diet, right? The macrobiotic diet. There's so many. The rice diet, the Kempner diet. Once you really see the muscle hardness come up, body fat going down, and the response to high volume, high intensity training. Once you really see that coming together, it takes time. Your body's aware of these time cycles more than you or I want to admit. And no matter what you do to make up for that in intensity, or how many excuses you want to make, it never matches up. The time is a critical factor with improvements in fitness, aesthetics, and muscle density. And kind of oddly, when you look a certain way, you can affirm that, see it in the mirror, or just know it and feel it. And you're going, I can do this. And all of a sudden, something that you thought you couldn't do or you wouldn't attempt to do, you begin to build up that coordinated effort. Like going on the horns, with kettlebells, doing a push to pull, like where you're pressing off the horns, balancing, and then rowing and going down and then switching sides and alternating sides. That type of thing can really bring out further those muscle fascicles. It's fun. It's fun shit. And then diagnostic movements like empty cans, right? Stuff like that. Highly important. All right, we're there. We got 3 hours in.